Giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Oh, yeah. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live, presented by Boston Scientific. We streaming live on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course, I am your host, Will. Come on. I said Will. Skywalker still, baby. Boom! I know I wasn't here yesterday. We'll talk about that later. Today, man, we pick up one of my favorite series, State of the Unit. We're talking about the cornerbacks, man. We're talking about the big addition that the Cowboys got in that cornerback room. And we got a special guest coming through later on to talk exactly about that. Plus, in the roundup, our undrafted free agent spotlight. Next Terrence Steele? Maybe not. We'll see. Talk about that as well. Pulse of the Nation, if you want to call in, you can. 351-999-3787 is the call-in line for y'all to come through and chat it up. I know I wasn't here yesterday, so I know a lot of y'all probably still got some things on y'all mind about what's happening around the Dallas Cowboys. And the rookies begin to meet with the vets, the rookies and the vets, starting today. They all came together this week on Monday, and they'll start practice today. So we'll have a whole lot to discuss in regards to that throughout the rest of the week. But we want to start our State of the Unit here with the cornerback room. We'll look at the entire room. We'll talk about their present and future outlook. And it should be good, man. These ones usually go a little bit longer than normal because we kind of take our time with each guy. Some will be longer with, some we won't be. But we'll attack every player as best as we can. But good morning, Bomb Squad. Appreciate y'all for being here. I'm surprised. I'm looking through the chat here. Nobody got on me about my Lakers, huh? I appreciate that. Y'all love me so much. Y'all not going to troll me about my Lakers, but I'll troll myself. I guess you can say that my Lakers are mid. God damn, LeBron. I can't get. You know what that reminds me of? What was it, 2011 when the Mavs won? And the Lakers are coming off of their championship or whatever, and we got swept, and you had Andrew Bynum trying to take out the little fella's head, and it was just a mess, man. Phil Jackson went out like that. It was just a mess, man. That's what it reminded me of. He gets swept. Now, look, we got some young bucks I like, Reeves, Rui. Like, we got a lot of little good things to look forward to in the future. But, damn, you can't get swept. Mid! You can't get swept, man. Yeah, drop the brooms. All right, I had some fun with it now. Yeah, Tuck. That damn Dirk Nowitzki year, which was a fantastic run for Dirk. Shout out to Dirk. I'm in Dallas now. But let's go ahead and move forward. Get to the roundup. We got some quarterback news in the roundup, as well as our undrafted free agent spotlight. By the way, before I do that, y'all know me, man. I'm going to make sure I'm good here. All right, he is good here. I'd break MJF. Danny, you know, Danny, I got some words for you, Danny. You just love to be. You should change your name to Toxic Danny. You know what I mean? You should change your name to Toxic Danny. I'm with you, Lee. They're the first team, I think, to start 2-10 and make the playoffs. They're only the second 7th seed to make it to the Western. Look, I'm proud of them, but mid. All right, I'm done trolling my team. All right, let's get out of here and get to the roundup. Actually, no, that's not what we want. We want that button.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It is time for.
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Hey, yo. The NFL is bringing back the quarterback 3 rule. There's a lot of young fans probably watching that don't realize this isn't a new rule. This is essentially an old rule that they got rid of for what? I don't know why they got rid of it. This was back in 2010 when they got rid of it. But in 1991, they implemented the kind of mandatory quarterback 3 rule, and it was good all the way up until 2010. It was a great rule. And then they decided to remove it. Why? I have no clue. But here's the difference now with the quarterback 3 rule. If you're injured quarterback and your second injured quarterback and you're down to your third quarterback, but if your first injured quarterback is okay and he can come back into the game, they will allow him to come back into the game. In years past, if you got to your QB3, you could not go back to your other quarterbacks. So that is one slight rule change. Here's another one. The player has to be on a 53-man roster to be eligible to be named the inactive third quarterback on game day, meaning you can't do the practice squad call-up thing. They have to be a part of the roster. So honestly, that helps 2 ways. One, you don't have to waste any call-ups on the quarterback. The quarterback can just be inactive. I'm sorry. The quarterback can just be active but not count against your 46. So they have to be on the 53, but they don't count towards the 46, if that makes sense. At any rate, this is good news for the Cowboys' third-string quarterback, Will Grier, who is going to be heading into his second training camp with the Cowboys. He came in a little bit later in his first year with Dallas, and I actually had a chance to speak with him last year about that at training camp. About him being in his second year with the Cowboys under the new offense, and kind of a little bit of what he had to say.
Will Grier,
Yes, sir.
who I think is absolutely having a great camp. Quick question. You came in towards the end of camp, if not like ready to start the season, if I'm not mistaken. Now you're in year 2. You seem to be a lot more comfortable and at ease out there. How you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. I think being in offense for a year, you start to kind of you settle in. Like I knew the plays in the meeting room. But transitioning out to the field, you have to play fast. Your mind speed's got to be fast, and I've continued to speed up the last year. I feel really comfortable now.
If he felt comfortable last year, I'd imagine going into his third season and second off season, he feels even more comfortable this training camp. So when you look at the Cowboys quarterback room, I was thinking about this when I was looking at this rule and just kind of putting this all together. I think they got one of the more comfortable quarterback rooms in the league. And I use that word purposefully, comfortable, because, look, man, there might be more talented guys as quarterback 2s. I don't know about that. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know every quarterback 3 in the league. But this is what I mean. You got your franchise guy in Dak, right? You've got your quality backup that's proven he can play within his role. And he's been with the organization for essentially his whole career. And you got this wild card in Will Grier, this kind of squash-buckling mobile guy that he's played a few games in the league, but not a ton, so the league didn't have a whole lot on him. But he's been around since 2019, and he's going into year 3 with the team. I mean, how many teams can say they've got a guy with 7-8 years experience as their starter, another guy with 6-game starter experience, and he's been in the league for 6 years or so, 6 or 7 years as well. And then a third string guy who's got a few games as well, with a few 3 years now going into training camp with the same team. I think it's a comfortable quarterback room. And you should feel good about the room moving forward. Now, you don't want to see your team ever go to a quarterback 3, but because of what happened in the Eagles game, where the Niners, which is ridiculous in the playoffs, you shouldn't even have to account for that, where the Niners had to go down to their quarterback 3 essentially and then come back to their quarterback 1 because of his injury, and they didn't even throw the ball with him. The NFL realized we can't do this again. So they didn't. They brought the rule back. Today's undrafted free agent spotlight. Earl Bostic Jr., offensive tackle out of Kansas. Shout out to Tuck, who is down there in Kansas. I met somebody, by the way, Tuck, from Kansas the other day. He actually, I think, currently goes to the school. Earl Bostic Jr., one of those super seniors that played 6 seasons in college. He took advantage of that COVID situation. So, again, we will probably see things get back to normal in about a couple seasons. But he's one of those guys. He was in college for 6 seasons. In his first 2 seasons at Kansas, he was a tight end. He was a defensive end and a tight end in high school. Came to Kansas with the thought of potentially moving to tackle, but didn't do it until 2019. Now, when you watch Earl Bostic Jr., hear me out. There's some Terrence Steele to his game. Early Terrence Steele, not now Terrence Steele, not developed Terrence Steele. Some early Terrence Steele to his game. And you see it in his traits. You see it in that raw athleticism. But you also see it in things he needs to work on, like understanding of the position, gaining some strength, some anchor, a little bit more of a nasty demeanor. I don't know that that's quite there. But there are a lot of traits to like about this kid. And if you can somehow sneak him on the practice squad and get him a year under your belt, I think he'd be a good developmental offensive tackle to kind of get going in that farm system. Because if it's one thing we should be familiar with here in Dallas, it's that you need to have a farm system due to injuries. And really, let's just be honest, across the league in general. But due to injuries on the offensive line, you need to have guys that you can develop and trust to bring in there. I don't think he's a guy right now that is going to come in and start for you or be a backup for you. But you want to see him kind of work his way towards that. And hell, if he does show out enough in camp and you're afraid to put him on waivers, then you keep him and you have him compete for that super backup spot. But I like the traits in Earl Bostic Jr. Here's what Brugler says on Bostic Jr. Quote, Bostic moves with the slide quickness and athletic body control expected of a former tight end, but his play strength and timing aren't currently on an NFL level, especially in the run game. He has the developmental tools that will give an NFL team optimism. End quote. So that is today's undrafted free agent spotlight, Earl Bostic Jr. Yeah, gives me some shades of early, if you guys remember, early Terrence Steele. Early Terrence Steele, look, let's be honest, we all had our feelings about him, but I think towards the end of 2020, you started to see some of those traits come together and see what they liked about him. He never was expected to come in and play. He really wasn't. You suffered a bunch of injuries on the line, and he had to step in. Here's the thing with Bostic, I don't think he'd have to do that unless beyond injuries, right? If injuries happen and then terrible play happens behind him, now we're really, really in trouble. All right. So let's flip it. We talked about needing depth. We talked about needing a farm system. And when I was putting together the state of the unit and I was looking at the reserves, that's kind of what I was thinking about. Like the Cowboys, no matter how good we feel about the top of our cornerback room, you need to have that farm system. Because when you look at the overall pass defense last season, Cowboys Nation, it doesn't look bad. When you look at the pure numbers, 8th in completion percentage, 7th in yards per pass attempt. I believe they were a top 10 unit in pass yards per game, only giving up 200 yards through the air. But the problem was when cornerback 2 went down, who wasn't playing great in general, but when cornerback 2 went down and then cornerback 3 went down, your depth got tested and teams started hitting big plays like it was nothing. And those big plays were costing you. Now, eventually Dallas figured some things out and got it together in the postseason. But before that, it got funny, which led to the Cowboys making a big move. But all jokes aside, when we talk about these reserve guys here, all jokes aside, we're going to talk ball here. If Dallas hasn't learned anything, I hope they learned that from last season, that they need some reliable depth and it's stable. I'm not naive. I don't expect cornerback 5 and 4 and 6 to when they have to step up, that they perform like cornerback 1 or 2. However, last year kind of got me a little itchy when it comes to if a guy goes down. So you need some of these guys in the farm system, and I'm using the baseball term here. You need some of these guys to develop at some point. And when you look at Eric Scott Jr. and Miles Brooks, that's kind of what I look at these guys as, developmental guys. Now you hope, right? You hope they come in and they're Deron Bland. They're the next Deron Bland. Not expected to compete for a starting spot or for playing time, but they come in and surprise you. And they come in and because of injury, they play like stars. But I'm not naive. I don't expect that to happen every year for a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick. So I look at Eric Scott, I look at Miles Brooks, and I look at guys that can maybe make that bottom of the roster in regards to corners uncomfortable. They will have the opportunity to make those guys uncomfortable. And the main reason why I think they'll make those guys uncomfortable is because Kelvin Joseph and Nahshon Wright didn't do that. They didn't make the bottom of the roster room uncomfortable. Now, their stories are not done being written, Cowboys Nation. But that pen, it might be running out of ink. Nahshon Wright and Kelvin Joseph both got opportunities to showcase, hey, I'm the next guy up. AB goes down. Kelvin Joseph was up next. Kelvin Joseph received 167 snaps last year. 11 tackles, 2 stops, 2 pass breakups. 219 yards allowed, 147.9 quarterback rating. And a lot of that is because he gave up 4 touchdowns through the air. And one of the numbers that I often bring up with him is it was 4 touchdowns on only 104 pass defense snaps. That is a terrible ratio. That's a bad ratio. On the other side, Wright was a little bit better. Not that great, but a little bit better. 128 snaps, 19 tackles, 7 stops. Here's the ironic part about Nahshon Wright. He was actually really good in the run game. More better than I thought he'd be in the run game, given his wiry, small frame. 1 pass breakup, 242 allowed in the air, a 73 quarterback rating. Didn't give up a touchdown. Gave up some big plays, though. And did have the interception against the Titans, which good for him. He needed kind of that boost. And I've been saying this since last year when it came to both of these gentlemen, but specifically Nahshon or Kelvin Joseph. If you're going to give up plays, I need you to make them. And there wasn't any consistency in Wright's part about it, and there was none in Kelvin Joseph. He was not a playmaker. He hasn't been a playmaker since he's been here. Now, you can sit here and we could talk about what happened off the field and say that affected him. I'm not going to be naive to think that it didn't. I'm not going to do that. Okay. But this is a bottom line business. Obviously, the Cowboys do not care. The Cowboys did not care because they benched his ass after he got abused against Jacksonville and put in Nahshon Wright in the middle of that game, by the way. And they never turned back to Kelvin Joseph. And this is why I think it's important to say they never turned back to him. These guys went out and signed Xavier Rhodes, Mullins, and rolled with them and then said that ain't working, so we're going to bring a cornerback, a safety to cornerback, and move Deron Bland on the outside in the playoffs. So as much as some people want to write off what happened last year and say, oh, well, you know what? Kelvin Joseph is fine. I don't think the coaching staff believes he's fine. Hence, you go out and make the trade. Hence, you draft another cornerback. If you look at the end of the season, he finished the season as your cornerback 7. Yeah. I'm counting the guys who got hurt. So if you look at the end of the season, he finished damn near off the roster. He was a pure special teams guy. And that is a huge disappointment for a 2nd round pick. Now, Nahshon Wright not far behind from disappointments, and it may not be his fault. No one expected him to be drafted in the 3rd round, but he was drafted in the 3rd goddamn round. And he had his opportunity to showcase something. So these two dudes have a lot of pressure, I think, on them to step up and become reliable depth in that cornerback room. Because right now, and this is really no knock to Eric and Miles Brooks, we haven't seen them, but right now, that is your biggest question mark in the cornerback room. It's dealing with the depth situation. And I wanted to stick to football. I didn't want to get to the off-field stuff. Just on the field, that room had some question marks. Now, there's some caveats. You can say, hey, is Israel McQuamma a cornerback? That could be something you could throw in there as a depth guy. He technically was a depth guy, but I don't know if he's going to be an outside type corner. Maybe big slot when you're dealing with the bigger guys, you know. The Godwins, the Godwins of the world, the Jennings of the world. Yeah, maybe he'll slide in there, but I don't think he's a full-time cornerback yet. That could change. Maybe he throws his name in the hat. But when we look at our starters, and this is where we're kind of going to focus in a little bit more here. It's almost impossible, Cowboys Nation. It's almost impossible to talk about the big four without bringing up Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore traded for a 5th-round pick, former defensive player of the year, which is no small thing. You know what I mean? And I feel like maybe because it's been a few months, maybe because the hype has died down, the league or the nation or the NFL fans kind of just forgot, hey, Cowboys got Stephon Gilmore. This dude is no slouch. This is a former defensive player of the year that still got it. Gilmore spoke about his mindset, and we listened to Gilmore a few months ago when we first got him. But I want to replay this because just listen to him. He's not a guy that's going to bark a whole lot, but you can hear the confidence in him. You can hear the I'm him in him. And then obviously he displays that on the field. But here is Stephon Gilmore talking about his mindset last year, going up against some of the elite guys, specifically Devontae Adams.
Year 11 for me in the league, going on year 12, and I think as you get older, they kind of doubt you a little bit.
Broken up! It's broken up! The Colts win! Ball game! Stephon Gilmore with the pass breakup! Ball game! It's batted down by Gilmore, the former defensive player of the year.
He kept trying me, so I made him pay. Each and every week I go in with that mindset to let him know that I'm still here and that I'm still playing at a high level.
It's 4th and 7 at the 16-yard line.
We knew it was going to come down to the last second with them. They know they got a great offense, great skill positions.
4th and 6 coming up.
4th down, me and Devontae Adams. Those moments like that, everyone wants to see it. It's the best on best, and both of us competing. Who would want to see that?
Shotgun snapped. The Colts bring a blitz. Backs to throw. Giving ground. He off his back foot. Lobs for the end zone for Adams.
And it's broken up by the Colts by Stephon Gilmore.
Stephon Gilmore was step for step with the Pro Bowler.
Devontae Adams, the intended receiver.
It's incomplete.
And no flags on the play. One All-Pro going up against another. And on downs, the Colts hold.
You can't panic in that situation. You know the ball's coming your way. Going against a guy like Devontae Adams, I've been playing against him my whole career. I know for myself I can't be as aggressive at the line of scrimmage because I know he's a quick receiver that can really get off the line. I gotta kind of be patient with him and try to beat him to the spot on all of his routes. Now I kind of moved back off the line just to see where he was going. As soon as he took that angle to the touchdown, I just kind of beat him to the spot.
Broken up Gilmore. There's no yellow on the play.
And played
Smart
through the
guy.
hands. I thought it was going to be a back shoulder. That's why I looked behind me a little. Once I knew it wasn't a back shoulder, I just played the hands. He got a visor on, so I really couldn't see his eyes. I just looked at his mannerism and knew the ball was coming to him, was able to make a play and play through the pocket.
You got one-on-one coverage with Stephon Gilmore. It's
How much
a big
goodness
route
was
to
in
the
that?
outside. There's a lot of contact.
The former defensive player of the year breaks it up in the end zone.
And go!
You know, it's a competitive play going against probably the best receiver in the league. Just trying to let him know that I'm still here. You know, I've been in that position multiple times throughout my career. As long as they keep playing that type of game, I'll be ready for each moment. And I embrace those situations.
One All-Pro going up against another.
The former Defensive Player of the Year breaks it up in the end zone.
I was just ready for the moment. I was going to dig deep during that moment and try to make a play to help the team win.
Shouts out to the coach for that fantastic footage, man. But there was so much in that to take away from a mental standpoint, from a veteran's standpoint. And, Gilmore going up against Davante Adams isn't the only one. The only elite guy, the only top guy that he's played against and shut down or clamped or had good games against. Another one was A.J. Brown. And my guy, DMV Fanatic, dropped a fantastic breakdown on Stephon Gilmore versus A.J. Brown. And I think that might have helped kind of bring this hype back, because I don't think this is something that is just lightweight. I think this is a massive, major deal, because we saw what happened in that cornerback room when you didn't have a cornerback two to help. And I don't think he's just going to help the cornerback room, man. I think he's going to help out the entire defense and those guys in front of him. But without further ado, let's bring in my guy, DMV Fanatic, on the horn. What's good, brother?
What's going on, Sky?
How you doing,
Ain't
man?
much, man. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I got you loud and clear, brother.
All right, cool. Yeah, man, thanks.
Hey, no,
Appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you for coming through, and I appreciate you for dropping that video on Stephon Gilmore, because, like I said, man, I think the hype kind of died down because things got a little quiet around Cowboys land. But, I think you did a fantastic job in breaking him down against A.J. Brown, an opponent we're going to be going against, by the way, twice during the season. And a player who, did the Cowboys dirty with a few big catches last year. But kind of talk to the nation about that video you broke down and what you saw and the importance of, Stephon Gilmore and his team.
All right, so yeah, I noticed that throughout the off season. So the reason that I did the video is because throughout the off season, and the national media does it oftentimes, and we've seen it year in, year out, where Dak Prescott is used as the measuring stick. And that's really just the Cowboys coverage throughout. I wanted to change the narrative of that. So I had a buddy of mine who said that, if you don't like guys talking about Dak all the time, why don't you do something different and highlight the defense? Because you guys' defense is so good, and nobody's talking about Micah Parsons and the things that you've done to really build around that. So I've just been kind of highlighting things on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm like, well, wait, A.J. Brown and Trayvon Diggs, they had some matchups last year. And I know that Stephon Gilmore, I know he went up against A.J. Brown, so let me see what he did. So just to let y'all know, I went into this thing with a blind eye. I knew that Philly and the Colts, they had a good matchup against each other. But when I'm watching this and I'm breaking it down real time, you guys are hearing my actual, breakdowns at the time of me watching the clips. So it isn't anything that was premeditated. It wasn't anything that I took notes on. It's me just actually looking at it and seeing, oh, man, he locked this dude up in the seatbelt.
Yeah, and a lot of the times you were talking about kind of just the savviness, and even Stephon Gilmore mentioned that in his interview, and you can see it on film. Just, he can be physical, come up against and play against the run. He's not a big guy, but he'll do it. He can be physical at the line of scrimmage. But I think he beats you mentally. He just knows where you're going before you're going there, because he's seen it. He's seen it against the best, too. And he's played well against the best.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's really his superpower. I'm a big person on tendencies. And, when I was playing, that's what I had to do. I wasn't the greatest athlete. I was a good athlete, but I always had to break down tendencies. Like in basketball, you could tell somebody can go left, or if they can't go left, or if they want to go here. I think Stephon Gilmore, he's able to break it down in the film room, but I also think when he sees you in front, you might add some things that he hasn't seen, but if you show it to him too much, he's going to catch on to it, and then it makes it trouble for the offense on the other side.
Now, I don't know if you were watching this with this thought process, because I know you were just breaking down A.J. Brown and Stephon Gilmore, but is Gilmore's addition when you play against the Eagles, is this something where, okay, look, we've struggled against the run. Now you get Mozzie Smith to help you up front, but you can possibly now also throw another safety down there and say, hey, Gilly, Diggs, you guys can handle it on the outside, and Deron Bland on the inside. We saw what he could do against Quez Watkins. You think Gilmore allows you to bring a safety down to help against that Eagles run defense? Because or Eagles rush offense, because we know they run their offense through that play action, through the motion, through the pulling guys and getting the run game going?
I honestly think that from what I'm looking at and breaking down different pieces of this defense, I think that Dan Quinn really wants to be able to attack offenses to where you don't know where it's coming. I think that is a nuance that the Cowboys can do, but I also think he can, play zone and, disguise things very good. I think him and Stephon are going to complement each other very well. And I also think that there will be certain guys that maybe Stephon struggles with that Trayvon really doesn't. Like,
right.
I think that Terry McLaurin, I did a breakdown of Stephon versus him, where Terry can't even he can't do anything.
Clamped against
Trayvon
Diggs. Clamped.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that they're going to complement each other very well. I think that Justin Jefferson had some success against Stephon, but again, another guy that Trayvon Diggs don't really struggle with. So
yeah.
It's going to be very, very fun to see how this defense attacks teams. You talked about Izzy a little bit earlier. Izzy can slide in that corner and in certain situations too.
Yep.
Depending on if we're trying to take away tight ends or bigger guys. And then you got DeRon Bland, and it's just going to be fun, man. I can't wait to see how Dan Quinn attacks things.
Yeah, man. As you were talking, I was sitting here thinking about the possibilities, because Dan Quinn last year, I don't know if he just was nervous or scared to kind of give help on the other side, or if he was not nervous or scared, but bullish. Let me use that term. If he was bullish to give help on the other side because he was nervous about the safeties, who knows? But he never really gave much attention, when it came to single high safety and shading it to that cornerback too. Now he doesn't have to worry about it. I think with Gilly and with Diggs, he can deploy that extra safety how he wants to deploy it. So I'm really interested to see how they do things, and really we'll get an idea of that, I think, in camp. They're not going to play in the preseason, I don't think. But in camp, we'll get a chance to see a little bit of what they want to do. But man, I think his addition just takes this room to a level it hasn't been at. I don't even really know. When's the last time you've seen the Cowboys have these two type of? Was it T. New and Jenkins at their prime?
Probably, bro. And even that ain't this. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the best,
that's true.
I don't think we've seen it. Personally.
That's true.
I don't think we've seen it.
No, that's true, because you got a former defensive player of the year who's still playing at the top of his game. I mean, you look at some of the metrics. Gilmore, I don't know if people think just because he's older or whatnot, but he is still playing at the top of his game. And then you got a Trayvon Diggs, right? Defensive player of the year candidate, 11 interceptions 1 year, 4 the next year, a ball hawk, one of the best in the league. And he's never had a guy like Gilmore to learn from. So now he's going to be able to learn some more things. He's kind of the opposite version of a Brandon Cooks. That's why I love these pickups, because Brandon Cooks comes in and he can help an already established young Pro Bowl player in CeeDee Lamb. Same thing with Stephon Gilmore. He's going to help Diggs, physically on the field, right? Because if you want to challenge Diggs, that's more interception opportunities. And then it'll also help him mentally with the nuances of the game.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think that adding him will, because I did see the Colts, and they had a couple of, their scheme was complex at times because you have a guy like Gilmore. There might be more opportunities for Trayvon to jump some routes on the other side. They comboed it up sometimes and had man on one side with Gilmore, and then they zoned it up on the backside. So, yeah, man, it's a different dynamic, bro. Man, I can't wait. And it's also, here's another thing too, Scott, that you haven't talked about. But how much better is that receiver room going to get on the other side, having to deal with that every day, or having those guys, or having Stephon pretty much kind of, okay, I was able to see that you're doing this and that, blah, blah, blah. Like, you might need to mix it up here and there. So it'll help on the offense too, I think.
Yeah, I hope. Well, here's what I say, because the battles will be fun. Because you got some established guys, right? You got Diggs and Gilmore versus Cooks and Lamb, and then, throw in Michael Gallup in there. Like, these guys are going to be battling each other. They're going to make each other fight at these practices and whatnot. But last year, I would have thought that, the okay cornerback room was going to challenge the sub wide receiver room and it'd make them better, but it didn't do that. The wide receiver room was still not that good. So I ain't going to get my hopes up too much.
Yeah, I mean, and that's very, very valid. You know what I'm saying? I think that the bigger difference is who's calling the plays too. You know, and I think it'll make Gallup better because of, you know, if you look at Green Bay and the types of things they were able to do with the size of a guy like Gallup.
Yeah.
I think they'll be trying to attack that in practice, and it'll only make things better. Iron will sharpen iron at some point.
One thing I think doesn't get talked about enough of what Stephon Gilmore is going to allow you to do or improve, and this is crazy to think because you already have one of the best, is the pass rush. You know, no longer, and we talk about, you talk about Diggs and getting opportunities. Diggs would go games last year where he wouldn't be targeted as much and he'd get lulled to sleep. You know, he'd get bored. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. And I think teams are going to essentially have to pick, all right, do I want to test the savvy guy that if I choose wrong, he can pick that thing off too? Or do I want to test the other guy that if I choose wrong, he can take it to the crib? So, you know, he's not only going to help Diggs, but he's going to help the pass rush when he's locking or clamping or making a quarterback hold that ball for an extra tick. And if you hold the ball for an extra tick with a Micah Parsons, Sam Williams, D. Law, Osa Digizoo, or Dante Fowler, Dorrance Armstrong, you got a plethora of pass rushers, man. So I don't think we should let that get lost in the sauce here. Adding Gilmore is also going to help this pass rush.
For certain, man, and that's actually the biggest. That's actually the biggest plus in my opinion, because there were times last year where our pass rush kind of slowed up because what teams figured out was, okay, we'll just get it out quick. We'll do these quick hitters, and you know, a guy like Trayvon, while he's shutting his side down, I mean, ain't much you can do with these quick hitters, these quick screens, and all of these type of things. The year prior, they used to try and set Trayvon Diggs with double moves. Yeah. And he didn't fall for the double moves as much last year, but the pass rush got better. And us being able to stack up front and Micah, you know, getting another year under his belt and really understanding what he has to do, it's going to be really, really tough. And those guys will be able to drive on the football a little bit more this year, especially having more talent in Gilmore. So, oh man, like it's all across the board. I just think that on the defensive side, this is why I've been focusing on it, because I think that if all else plays like we wanted to and health is on our side, we could have one of those defenses that they talk about for a long time.
Indeed, man. Indeed. Hey, DMV, I appreciate you coming through this morning to break that down. If you want, you can drop the video as in the chat again like you did last week. Go ahead and do it, man. If y'all haven't checked this out, do yourselves a favor after the show and go check out his breakdown of Gilmore versus Brown. And then he also did one of Gilmore versus Terry McLaurin, man. But before we go, let them know where they can find you at, DMV.
Yeah, man. I'm also going to talk in the chat a little bit, but I appreciate everybody. Appreciate all the love. But, man, DMV Fanatic on YouTube. Easy name. And on Twitter, man, DMV Fanatic 1, man. I appreciate everybody. Hey, and again, Sky, humbled. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Of course, brother. Of course, man. That's my guy, DMV Fanatic, coming through, blessing us with the commentary, Cowboys Nation. Look, I think what I'm going to try to do, I know I said we try to bring back the Around the Nation, but the problem is I'm a morning show and I can't get everybody to join in the morning. I was doing Around the Nation in the evenings, you know, because everybody's off work. Maybe I'll do a remix version of it, man, because I like to hear from the Tucks of the world, the DMVs of the world, the Romes, like other content creators out here doing their thing. Maybe I'll just try to incorporate them in the morning show. And we'll just get them one at a time and we'll talk ball with them. Maybe we'll do that, man. But look, Around the Nation was fire. I got to figure out a way to do that. It was fire. If you missed that, man, you missed some fun. All right, let's take a quick break. And then we'll get back to reviewing the rest of this cornerback room. But that was DMV Fanatic of DMV Fanatic on YouTube, a.k.a. my guy, John. If the addition of Stephon Gilmore doesn't get you fired up, you might want to hit up Boston Scientific, Cowboys Nation. ED can affect your self-esteem and impact your most important relationships. If you've tried pills or even other things that have not worked, there is hope. Take a free online assessment that you can share with your doctor. Click the ad in our description. There's a permanent, satisfying solution to treat ED. Visit edcure.org. Get the facts. Find a urologist who can offer treatment options when others don't work. Again, that's edcure.org. Brought to you by Boston Scientific. It ain't hard, but you can be.
You're listening to A to Z Sports.
Do it live!
At some point, hoping to broadcast
In front of the millions
of Cowboys fans to bring you the real. But for now, strap up and here's your host, Skywalker Steele.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
We'll do it live.
Yeah, those was the days, Jay. Those were fun, man. Man, the hype days, that was the beginning of the craze. This is why, I did my sit down with Okoye. That'll probably be dropping at some point. And I was talking about how, COVID was not a bad thing for content creation. COVID kind of birthed a lot of things, and it birthed the hype. It allowed me to kind of get in the lab a little bit more, and who knows, man, maybe I'm not here without it, which is weird to say because it was such a terrible thing that happened. And I'm not talking about the actual thing, but the whole damn world shutting down. But here we are, man. Here we are. The hype was fun, man. It was new, it was fresh. Wasn't nothing like it. Had a good time with it. Let's turn our brains back to the big four at cornerback. We started off with Stephon Gilmore because, of course, you start off with Stephon Gilmore. Gilmore is the big addition to this team. But let's kind of take a step back and get back into the depth of this unit right here. And we're talking about Jordan Lewis. Jordan Lewis is a tricky one for most. To me, he's not. I don't look at Jordan Lewis any differently than I looked at him before, because he has 1 year left on his deal. He is costing you, I guess, $5 million against the cap, but to me, that's not a whole lot. It's not like they're going to do anything with the $5 million that's going to drastically change the roster. If they wanted to make a move on J. Lou, I think they would have made the move already. They aren't. I don't think they're going to make a move on Jordan Lewis. I think J. Lou will be here for this team, and I think he needs to be. There are people that want to push him off of this roster, and I just have to ask you, do you forget what happened last year? It quite literally, we had an issue with depth, and you want to get rid of depth. Is Jordan Lewis going to move the needle? I'm not saying that, but this is a guy that is a steady hand that you can rely on if you need to hold down the fort. In reality, he was a part of two pass defenses, prior to his injuries that were solid. So me personally, I'm 10 toes down on this. I'm not getting rid of no damn Jordan Lewis because it'll save you $5 million that you're going to do what with? What are you going to do with the $5 million that you can't do right now? In fact, you're getting $10 million in a couple weeks here. Next week, next Thursday or Friday or something like that. You're getting $10 million. So I'm keeping Jordan Lewis. I think we're thinking about this too much, or sometimes what happens is as fans, we get fascinated with the new guys, or some fans just flat out don't like their own players and they don't really think about the context of what's happening here. And they're just like, oh, I'll get rid of Jordan Lewis because of Eric Scott Jr. or because of Miles Brooks or because of Kelvin Joseph. All unknown factors. Much rather keep him and keep the depth. Now, Deron Bland, me and Voch were talking about this the other day. Look, a little bit. See, it's the Cowboys. I got to take my Cowboys hat off a little bit because I'm borderline ready to call this goddamn young man a freaking star. A star. And I know it was one season, so he's got to do a little bit more. But my goodness, from the time he came into training camp and you saw his demeanor, I said, this is a rookie? And then he gets on the field. And I'm like, nah, there's no way this is a rookie. This man has been here before. And I was one of the guys before training camp. I was like, hey, man, he's going to make the team because he's a 5th round pick, but I don't know where he's going to fit in. Then he gets to training camp, and I'm like, hey, man, we might have to find a way to get this young man on the field. Well, he's one of the main reasons why, when it comes to these young guys like Miles Brooks and Eric Scott, I don't expect them to be DaRon Bland's, but I'm going to wait till we get to training camp because DaRon Bland was a star at camp. He was a star in the joint practices, and he got to preseason, and he played well. And if you guys remember, there are some new people here. But if you aren't new, and you remember when we brought DaRon Bland on the show, when we talked to DB, he was telling us about camp. And I said, what was the moment, the welcome to the NFL moment for you? And he was like, man, it's when I had a couple bad practices, and I was kind of doubting myself a little bit. And I'm like, you had a couple bad practices? This dude is so enamored with perfection and being the best he can be. He was upset with a couple bad practices. I love that mentality. And this game here, it wasn't his best game against the Green Bay Packers. He got beat on a deep ball. But one of the things in the preseason I asked him about, I said, look, I wanted to see you in that final preseason game, and I hate to say this, I wanted to see what happens when you got beat. Because you were just about flawless throughout the preseason. And I was worried, man, is this going to be a situation where I'm getting fooled because it's preseason? Sometimes you want to see how a guy bounces back. So he gets beat by, it might have been Lockett or somebody. Geno Smith threw a touchdown on him. I said, okay, how do you respond? DaRon Bland, I don't think he gave up another catch the rest of that damn game. It's like he took it personal. And I'm like, okay, this guy is the real damn deal. He's the real deal. And whenever he gets his opportunity to get on the field, I think he's going to play well for the Cowboys. And the very first game, he gets on the field, boom, interception. Now, that game came with some rookie mistakes or whatever, but that's going to happen. His season came with some rookie mistakes, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen. He was a rookie, but he led the team with 5 interceptions. He had 12 stops, and don't discount those stops. Like DaRon Bland is probably no. Let me take that back. Run it back. DaRon Bland is your most physical cornerback. Period. From a on ball, at ball, run offense, blocking, whatever. He is extremely physical, and you saw that in the preseason. I saw him take out a couple tight ends and wide receivers on his way to taking down the ball carrier. So, look, it's one season. I got my Cowboys fan hat on. I don't care who your cornerback 3 is in the league. Give me DaRon Bland moving forward. This kid is special. He's got all the traits. And maybe special might be put in there. But he feels that way, man. He just feels that way, and I'm excited for his second season. I think DaRon Bland, has a staple guy written all over him. And I know we talk about second-year jumps, and we're looking at guys like the Sam Williams of the world, Tyler Smiths, who played a lot. I don't know if it's out the equation that DaRon Bland can have an even better year. It sounds nuts because he had 5 picks. But now he's got Stephon Gilmore or Diggs on the other side of him. One of the two. Which means if they decide not to attack those guys, Bland could be the guy they attack. The dude who led your team in interceptions. So this whole entire team or whole entire nation should be excited about DaRon Bland. Like a lot of these rookies who showed you some promise, you should be excited about. When I say rookies, I mean the 2022 rookies. Most of those 2022 rookies showed you a lot of promise that you should be excited about and get behind. And then, of course, you have Trayvon Diggs, the former All-Pro, led the league in interceptions in 2021 with 11, added 3 or 4 last year. He's still, I don't think it's just kind of crazy to me. Diggs still doesn't get the respect. I know he can be boom or bust when it comes to certain times throughout the season, but I'm sorry, I don't look at him as a boom or bust player. Not in 2022. I thought he was better as a cover guy in 2022. Yeah, did he get lulled to sleep against Philly on a double move and against the Colts on a double move? He did. He'll admit to that. He did. But I thought he played those double moves consistently a lot better this past season. Now let's see if he improves even more on said moves. Let's see if he improves a little bit more on the nuances of the game. And I have all the belief in the world that he will. I mean, why not? This is a dude who's going into what, his 4th or 5th season, something like that, playing cornerback, period. But here's why I think people, even their own Cowboy fans, have an issue with Diggs. He's not going to be a big hitter. He's not going to be an impressive tackler, although he was doing that at an impressive rate early in the season. But I think what happened was people soured on him when he didn't make the tackle against George Kittle. Our fans, our team has a tendency to not look at the big picture about our players. We get tunnel vision. We take a series, we take a play, we take a game, and we say, that's that guy, screw that guy. Trayvon Diggs is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, man. He's clamped some of the best wide receivers in the league. He's made quarterbacks have to go opposite ways. He's made offensive coordinators have to get tricky against him. If you don't believe in Trayvon Diggs and you want to start all over at the position, that's fine and dandy. But I think you'll never be satisfied then at the position. You'll never be satisfied. Diggs is up for a contract extension, and he needs to be given that contract extension before the season, or the price is just going to go up. If they want to play that game, the Cowboys can play that game. The franchise tag for corners is likely going to be around $20 million. And if he comes out and has another fantastic season, that price tag is only going to go up. So if Dallas wants to get ahead of this, they have the opportunity to get ahead of it. But if they want to play like Dallas usually plays, go ahead. But if he comes out here in year 3 of Dan Quinn's defense with a Stephon Gilmore on the other side, and he gets you 6, 7, 8 interceptions, you're going to have to break the bank even more than you would as we speak. So I expect Dallas to come to the table. I do. I expect them to say, hey, let's have this conversation. I also expect Diggs people to be like, oh, we're going to have a conversation. But the conversation starts at, I think, even above Xavier Howard. I think even above Jalen Ramsey. I think the conversation starts at the Jair Alexanders or the Denzel Wards. He's going to come for the bag. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles, man. You can't be afraid to pay guys like that. You cannot do it, in my humble opinion. Now, some can say, well, Scott, you got DaRon Bland in the tuck. You can get rid of him and DaRon Bland. Well, if we play worst case scenario, Stephon Gilmore's on a 1-year deal. Okay. Jordan Lewis on a 1-year deal. Technically, Trayvon Diggs is on a 1-year deal. Part of me wants to say, if they wanted to play bad guy, they could just tag him. But they didn't even tag Byron Jones, another accomplished corner, and he's better than Byron Jones. Well, let's say they play super bad guy and they don't tag him either. You really want to take the chance of going into next year with just DaRon Bland and these guys? Nah, I'm good. Extend your all-pro corner. Now you have DaRon Bland. You got Trayvon Diggs for the future. You hope one of these guys can step up. And maybe you continue to make savvy moves in the trade department and free agency to build around Diggs and Bland. But you do not play with this guy. He's like that, in my opinion. He's like that. All right. That will do it for the breakdown of the Cowboys cornerback room. We'll say wide receiver. Cornerback room in the State of the Union. I'm going to get back to the phones here in a second. But let's hit the super chats prior to doing that. I think I saw one earlier. I just kind of want to get that out the way. Appreciate you for the super chat. I think it was Towboat, actually. Well, shout out to you, Tobo Ty. I didn't know that was you on Twitter. A lot of times we interact, but I didn't know that was you, man. Yep, that was you. Towboat Ty, drop one. Appreciate you, big dog. He said,
Super chat.
Glad there's a show today. My days at work suck without Sky and the squad. And that's the bottom line. Do I got my? I sure do. We won't play it though. All right, let's hit the horns. First up, we got Toxic. I think it's Toxic today. We'll see. Toxic Tom on the phone line. What's good, brother?
Good morning, Sky. First off, sorry about your Lakers, man. You guys overachieved, I think, but I shouldn't be too upset.
Oh, no, not at all.
At least you beat the Warriors.
Not at all. Yeah, it sucks because you got swept. That's the most upsetting part about it. I didn't think they beat Denver, but I'd like to see this thing go 7. The first 2 games were fun.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, if you would have told me 5 months ago that the Lakers would have made the Western Conference Finals, I probably would have asked you for a drug test.
Facts.
But, I mean, good thing your season started with a problem with a guy named Russell, and it ended with a guy named Russell too. So,
that sucks,
other
man.
than that,
one second. I was actually kind of happy we got D-Russ back, and then he just disappeared. But anyway, go ahead.
As long as Swaggy P's not nearby. So with the cornerback room, there's not much you really can say. The top 3, I would say, studs, especially Deron Bland. I mean, the way he came into the league, I remember we all thought that he might even make it out of camp. And he turned into maybe the best 5th-round pick the Cowboys have had in a really, really long time.
I don't even know if it's
About
maybe,
time they
bro.
actually nailed one.
Ain't even a maybe, bro. Remember we did a show where we were looking at the 5th-round picks, and it was terrible. Yeah. It was terrible for a long time.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about Jordan Lewis is his health, but for cornerback 4, you can't really complain. The bottom of the depth chart, though, and I think you know where this part's going. I would rather have Anthony Brown with no Achilles than Kelvin Joseph eating snaps away from people who actually deserve to be on this team. There is nothing redeeming about this guy. And I look at the date, and on June 1st, if the Cowboys cut him, they will save around $1.4 million in savings. You just traded up for a cornerback, and also you took a wide receiver who kind of reminds me of Anthony Brown, who was a special teams ace. In fact, if you listen to the guy from South Carolina talk, when he was interviewing teams, he talked about his ability to play special teams. So when I look at Kelvin Joseph, who is the only thing I can describe him as, he's the guy on your workforce that you know is not 100% committed, but he has the potential, I guess, to, if he applied himself, but he never has. For the life of me, and I've worked around these types of people, and I've seen people like this take away opportunities from people who actually work hard, and people like Nahshon Wright. Nahshon Wright didn't play great, but I know that Nahshon Wright was 100% committed to this team and trying to get better. And right there, why on earth would you keep this guy if you can save money and you can replace him with a special teams guy at a later date, and it just gets rid of all the BS? I hated the pick when they made it, and all the red flags, and there were more red flags than a Chinese military parade around Kelvin Joseph, and they all came to fruition. And I really wish that the Cowboys, I really hope, they had learned their lesson with getting these types of guys, that talent alone isn't enough in the NFL. Yeah. You need to work hard to get there, and I just haven't seen it with him. And if anyone's saying people make mistakes, I've made mistakes in my life, and I've paid for it, and I've lost opportunities because of those mistakes. So I'm not here to talk like I'm, the second coming of Christ himself.
That's why I kept it on the field, because everybody makes now. His mistake was an awful mistake, but people make mistakes. The issue that you brought up was the red flags, because the red flags seem to show up, during his short tenure in the NFL. And when you're talking, it sounds like you're describing a sense of entitlement. And that's kind of the problem, right? When you're a second round pick and you're kind of leaning on your talent, it only gets you so far. What's the quote that we always use here? I think Belichick said it. Your talent sets the floor, where your character is the ceiling, or something of that sort. And that's the truth.
Yep.
Like your character is what's going to allow you to reach your ceiling. And I don't know, man, if Kelvin Joseph truly, I don't know. I'm not coming at him. I legitimately don't know if he really loves this game enough to allow himself to reach that ceiling. Maybe a fresh start, maybe going into his third year, these things will happen. But I'm willing to come into camp because you don't need to cut anybody at this second. And let's see what happens. But I'm telling you right now, I almost called you DMV. I'm telling you right now, Tom, if he comes into camp and he's looking like the fifth, I wasn't even the fifth, the sixth best cornerback again, I'm just not keeping him on a roster. Why are we wasting our time? Now get you a younger guy that you can develop that has that character, that has that want to be great, and let Kelvin Joseph go try to catch on somewhere else. Because this isn't just about what happened during the season. He wasn't good. He also was outplayed in preseason and camp by other dudes. He was your sixth best cornerback, and that's not a good thing, man.
Yep. And I guess the point for me is I'm a big fan of when you have an issue with a team that you're on, and especially when you're in your career, I am a big fan of handling things internally before leaving the building. And for that man to go on Instagram Live and cry like he's the victim because the Cowboys witnessed that man. I was about to bring
that up too.
His name should be Toast because he gets cooked every time he touches that. Whenever I saw him get on the field, it's either he's giving up a big play or there's going to be yellow laundry on the field. And the fact that we passed on Asante Samuel Jr. for him still kind of irks me too. But other than that,
is the Kelvin Joseph Asante Samuel the second round version of TJ Watt, Taco Charlton?
I wouldn't go that far.
The second round version, like the poor man's version.
Yeah. The thing that really, to me, it's more like Tristan Hill all over again because, again, the Cowboys whiffed on better players.
Yeah, but
they took a gamble on a guy.
Yeah, but the Tristan Hill one was the safeties, right? And those safeties, Taylor Rapp got a ring. I get it. And the other one, he got a ring too. They were cool, but it seemed like Asante Samuel might be a really damn good young corner for years to come. That's all I'm saying. But that's a good one too.
Oh yeah. And the final point I'll say is the one thing that I do like with this coaching staff and with this team, and it's unlike Jason Garrett, is I'm not asking for guys to be choir boys. I don't want that. Everyone makes mistakes in life. But I am liking that the Dallas Cowboys tend to be trending away from the people that are more trouble than they're actually worth. And that's why I see guys, the only two guys on my shit list right now are Kelvin Joseph and Josh Ball. I think everyone kind of knows why. If you're going to be a fool off the field, you better be an all-pro on the field, and they're just not. So I really hope that this trend stays and they just get more physical freaks that just want to play football and finally make Dallas a championship city again when it comes to football. So I think we all want the same thing, just don't know how to get there right now. But other than that, thanks for letting me talk, and bring back Ryan Nall. Have a good day.
Yo, Toxic's funny. He always got to throw a little Ryan Nall in there. Appreciate you, Toxic. A good call, man. Good call. One more thing about Kelvin Joseph, because a lot of the times we hear people say, man, he was fantastic on special teams. Kelvin Joseph was an enigma on special teams. Yes, he had a fantastic game-changing play against San Francisco. And honestly, that might have been his saving grace. But do y'all realize he had 6 penalties on special teams? 6. That's ridiculous. So you could argue his good plays that he made during the season levels off because of the penalties that he had. So even his special teams is not a reason to be like, well, no matter what, I'm keeping him. Nah, man. Kelvin Joseph and Nashawn Wright, for that matter, both have to go out here and prove it to me because, these Miles Brooks, the Eric Scotts, their play and their situation have allowed guys like Miles Brooks and Eric Scott to enter the chat. That's just facts. No or nothing. I like that one. Hey, Ron, he dropped one. He said, Where you at here?
Super chat.
I think we go after the wrong cornerback. Nashon is even worse. Oh, are you saying we're going after the wrong cornerback? Oh, but cut them both. So he's saying, I think we're going after the wrong cornerback. Nashon's worse. At least Kelvin has traits. Cut them both. I mean, Kelvin was quite literally worse. So look, they both, like I just said, they both have to show out because they got these young bucks snipping at their heels. So, you know, and like I said, when I was doing the breakdown, Nashon Wright's not that far behind because if he was drafted, not that far behind in the 3rd round. Not his fault. He got drafted probably out of his position, but it is what it is, bro. You're a 3rd round pick. You know, going into year 3, we got to see you show up as well. However, I don't know that I'm saying that he's worse than Kelvin. I'm not saying that, bro. I'm sorry. Nashon Wright made some plays on special teams as well. Nashon Wright made some plays at corner. I have yet to see Kelvin Joseph do that at the position. And I mean, look, man, I mean, all I gotta do is just show this graphic, bro. You 18 targets, 12 receptions, 4 touchdowns allowed, 147 quarterback. That's terrible, bro. Like I'm hoping that's kind of an outlier, and that is not what he is, but that's bad. Nashon was bad. Not Nashon. Kelvin Joseph was bad last year. Really bad. Really bad. What's up, Jake the Great?
Scott Walker Steel, what's happening with you, man? Bomb Squad, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, my good brother. How you doing?
Man, I'm all right, man. Welcome back, man. I missed you yesterday, man. So you got to be careful out there in the streets of Dallas. They're up in my top 5 worst places to drive, you know what I'm saying?
It is. I think it's like number 1 in the country per capita or something like that when it comes to accidents. And I see it all the time around here. But I wasn't driving, so fortunately I'm good to go. But appreciate it, though, big dog.
Right. Oh, yeah, awesome breakdown on the cornerback room, man. When you got the top 3, you know, everybody knows the top 3. But on the 4th corner, I think we have no choice but to keep either AB or Jordan Lewis, depending on which one has the better camp. I'm leaning a little bit towards AB only because I guess he stays a little bit more healthy than Jordan Lewis. Lewis, like every year.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you right there, real quick, Jake. Anthony Brown is not on the roster. He's not? No, sir. He's a free agent. I doubt they even bring him back unless something happens during camp and they re-sign him during the season. You know, when you get that when that veteran doesn't count against your cap, right? He's dealing with the Achilles. When did he tear his Achilles, y'all? About mid-season, so he probably won't be ready till around the season anyway. So yeah, AB's not on the roster. Possibly an option to return, but he's not.
Well, if he's on the streets, he can just stay there then. You know what I'm saying? That makes him better. Don't come back.
Yeah.
But, you know, on the 5th cornerback, I'm really leaning towards Kelvin Joseph. Like, last year, to be honest with you, from my point of view, I think he got off easy. Because had he had killed the dog, oh, man. Look at this. Because I seen when Michael Vick came back, they had signs at every Eagles game talking about dog this, dog that. That's what I thought was going to happen in Dallas. Because his mama of the dude, you know, RP to the victim, you know what I'm saying? His mama was really mad that she was going hard on social media. So I was thinking that every time he touched the field, you was going to see signs and this and that, this and that. And I'm thinking that's probably what he thought. So he probably was in his mind. So I'm kind of rooting for him, but I tell you one thing. If I look on YouTube or on Twitter and I hear Boss Man Fat drop any album or any single, cut him today.
Oh,
cut
then
him now.
turn
your mind is not.
Turn your social media off, Jake. Turn your social media off, because I'm pretty sure. Look,
hey, he drops one, just cut him today.
Last year at camp, he still had the video board, you know, rolling around. Now he seemed humbled. He seemed, you know, like, okay, I got a second life or what have you. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't still affected mentally by it. And obviously his play on the field wasn't good. But I would not hold my breath on him not still doing what he loves to do. And I think that's, you know, music and film stuff. So,
man, there's always music 10 years or 5 years after you get that bag. Man, listen, man, if y'all got that opportunity to, you know what I'm saying, build generational wealth in the game, the hell with rap, the hell with music. Get your bag now, Stephon Joseph. But I'm telling you, man, I'm watching you, bro. I'm watching. I'm going to go against it. But, yeah, man, I just had to get that little rant. That's my top 5 corners, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully it goes down like that. Welcome back. Jake the Great. Checking out. Bomb Squad. Have a great day.
My guy, Jake the Great. Appreciate you. Yeah, I hope that, you know, when he wrote that thing on TikTok or whatever, Instagram, I don't know what it was. And he was like, man, how they going to do this to me after they, you know, traded for Stephon Gilmore? I'm hoping that's fuel. I'm hoping that drives him, because the greats, and I'm not saying he's one, they take every little thing personally and it pushes them. I'm hoping that drives him and he becomes a better player for it. Look, nobody is wishing that any of these dudes fail. There are some fans, though. There are some fans that are very strange in that. And they might not openly say, I hope this guy fails, but you can just read the tea leaves that so that they're proven right. They hope this guy isn't as successful or does fail. That's a whole nother discussion. But if Kelvin Joseph steps up his game, that means the rest of the roster improves. Like the rest of that cornerback room improves. So hopefully it pushes him. And in year 3, he's a better pro, and we see where it goes, man. But he might be, and I'm thinking about this. Nah, that might 100%. He is the biggest wild card in that room because we see the potential coming out. We've even seen it, you know, in stints in the NFL. He has the traits, he has the measurables, but I say it all the time. That don't mean shit if you don't put it together. If you ain't got it up here, you don't put it together, it doesn't matter. But we know that he has the actual talent. So let's see if his character, if he can get better as a person, and that'll help him get better on the field. Because if so, boy, he's got the talent, man. Yeah, exactly, Danny. Exactly. He says sad because he got the talent, 100%. All right, let's hit the what's we talking about there, Mendoza. Let's hit the chat and get up out of here. If you want to call in, I'll leave it open for a few more minutes. 351-999-3787, but we're making pretty damn good time. So some people just, I know what you're talking about, Mendoza. Some people just make terrible choices, says Tom. Have the opportunity to receive generational wealth, lift your family up, and you waste it. You know, I'm not going to judge him too crazy from the situation. Because look, if y'all knew about my past, when I was his age, I was younger than him, you know, and some of the things that I did and got in trouble for. I don't know if y'all would judge me the same. Now, it wasn't like that. That cost somebody their life, you know, but nonetheless, we all make these type of mistakes, and you just hope to get better for it is all. So I'm not really trying to, that's why I said I'm just focusing on the field. On the field, he's not a good player yet. Ooh, CT Mad here. Why you starting some trouble, bro? More accomplished. CT Mad here says, do I think Gilly is better than Diggs? I'm going to say he's more accomplished than Diggs. I think they're different players, but I think they're on that same tier. I do. I think both are top 10 cornerbacks in this league. But I ain't fighting. I'm not fighting who's better. We do this too damn much on this with this damn team. It's Dak and Cooper Rush and TP and Zeke. Yeah, we're going to do Gilly versus Dak. I ain't doing it no more, CT. Fun question, but I ain't doing it no more. That damn energy got on my nerves the last couple seasons. Somebody, okay, two good ones. Here we go. We're going to get Glenn, and of course, we're going to end it. We're going to end it with Mark. Rolo, you a nut, man. Here we go. Let's get my guy Glenn. Haven't heard from Glenn in a while. How you doing, man? No, I don't have him unmuted. What's up, Glenn?
All right. Hey, Sky. Am I coming in okay? Can you hear me?
I'm just making sure you're not coming in too hot to the viewers, but you're good, brother.
All right. I just caught most of the show. I think I came in when you were talking about Trayvon Diggs and him getting his bag. I can't believe that there are Cowboys fans that may be reluctant to give him his money. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. I mean, you're looking at a guy who, in an era where the NFL, they really don't want corners to really be able to shut down these wide receivers. And we've got a guy that we got in the second round. I think he's a second-round pick. He's been all that you can hope for.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe his tackling isn't the best, but you know what? I don't care about that if you're able to shut down or borderline shut down top wide receivers. And so if you don't want to pay this guy, you're crazy. That's all I got to say. I mean, you're absolutely crazy.
And there's people that are really pushing back. And I'm like, what? Again, if you don't want to pay him, you'll never be satisfied at the position. So don't ever pay corners in. Period.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And then people look at sort of the drop off in the numbers. You got to remember, a lot of quarterbacks still thought that they could make a living on Stephon Diggs, and so he was getting a lot more opportunities than he's getting now. And I'll say this about cornerback. I never played football in high school. I've been watching football a long, long time. What I can see is that cornerback play is not all about physical traits. It's about being smart and understanding route concepts. There are some things and some attributes that you just can't teach. It's an instinct and a feel. And Stephon Gilmore clearly has that. It's prolonged his career, and even with some of the injuries that he's battled, he's so smart. He's smarter than half the quarterbacks that are trying to throw against him. And so we've got a guy who understands those concepts. And Stephon Diggs, he's one of them ones. Let me just put it like that.
Facts.
You give him the bag, and you don't ask any questions.
Oh man.
The last comment I'd like to make is on the Jordan Lewis.
Okay.
And I really like Jordan Lewis. And I believe that when the Cowboys drafted him, I think the slot position, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the slot position has kind of changed, because I think when he came in the league, a lot of the slot wide receivers were shiftier, faster, and smaller. And Jordan Lewis did a really good job of checking those kinds of wide receivers. Now it looks like the trend is moving towards bigger slot wide receivers, and I think the physicality has kind of hindered his game. What are your thoughts on that?
I would have to do a deeper dive in that, because I still believe it's about the shiftier guys on the interior. But you run up against teams who don't deploy those guys, like the Niners and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But it's not because they didn't try. They had Adam Humphries, in previous years. They signed the boy who we had. What's his name? Cole Beasley. They signed Cole Beasley, but Beasley quit. So, I think the teams are still understanding that if you get kind of that shifty guy in the slot, that's your advantage. But then there's some teams like the Packers who just, they don't have those type of guys on the roster, so they put their bigger guys in there to get kind of a matchup advantage. So maybe it is evening out. I don't know around the league. I'd have to actually go look. But I still think Jordan Lewis is a slot corner that you can depend on, because you still got to have a twitchiness to you. Whether it's a big dude or not, you still got to have twitchiness to you, because if you're big or you're small and shifty, you've got a two-way go. And when we were talking to Deron Bland about that, he was saying the same thing, where, it's in my opinion, it's more difficult to deal with the passing game out the slot nowadays, because teams are using the entire field. This isn't kind of your standard 90s, early 2000s passing concepts where maybe the slot's an afterthought. The slot is no longer an afterthought. In fact, most, statisticians talk about 3 starting receivers now because of the slot. And and Jay Lou is a dependable guy in there. Is he a shutdown guy? Nah, but he's a dependable guy.
Yeah, and he makes plays when you need a play. If there's a tip pass over the middle, he has a knack for getting it. So I like to see. I'm glad the Cowboys didn't rush and try to get him off this roster just because of the injury. I like to see someone try and beat him out. I think that's
me too.
The problem you want to have. You don't want to start pushing guys off. You want competition to beat him out, and if you can beat him out, great. But I want to see it happen. And right now, if I had to put money on it, I would say Jordan Lewis survives. But I think it's at best a 50-50 proposition. So with that, I'll let you go. Great show. Glad to see you back.
Thanks, Glenn.
And I'll listen to tomorrow's show.
All right, man. Appreciate you, Glenn. Good call, as always, man. pretty much undefeated when he calls it. Yeah, it's a good question. Something to take a look at around the league. I do know historically McCarthy used to like bigger guys to go in there. Now Randall Cobb kind of threw a little, I guess he threw a monkey wrench in that. I don't know. And you got, like I said, the Bucks, the Niners. They really didn't deploy a lot of those shifty slot guys. They do different things. But yeah, Jay Lou, where I thought he was going, I was going to say I remember things kind of picking up in the slot when we had Orlando Scandrick, and that's why I think got the contract extension, because the league started to change that slot receivers became a big part of offenses, and you needed to now have a slot corner that can handle that. And was kind of that shifty, quick. They used to call him Oscar the Grouch because he was a gritty dude. Now, as years went on, he kind of deteriorated as a player, but I think we were looking to replace him. They drafted Jordan Lewis, and Jordan Lewis kind of fell into that and been here ever since. It's kind of crazy to think he's been here this damn long, but he's been here ever since, and we'll see if he can survive. CJ, I would not. He said, Sky, would you split reps between J. Lou and Deron Bland? I would not, man. Look, I'm all about competition. I will 100% go into this thing and say, everybody's competing. But if I'm starting off camp, to me, it's Gilmore Diggs on the outside, Deron Bland on the inside. J. Lou, you're gonna have to fight to get that spot, and that's just gonna make guys better. If J. Lou beats out Bland, that's good for us. I just don't think he will. I think Deron Bland, now he got all this, the film, he's got the confidence, the talent. He's younger, he's faster, I just think he's better at this point of his career. I don't see him beating him out. So I wouldn't play around with, I'm gonna give you 20 reps, I'm gonna give you 20 reps. You get tired or you get hurt, then Deron Bland comes out. But I wouldn't split the reps. This is Deron Bland's position to lose. I'll say that. All right, Magic City, what's good with you, Mark?
What up, Steve? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Good show today.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to make that team.
Oh, let me unlock this real quick.
The conference has been unlocked.
Only because it's tough. Go ahead.
I said, yeah, they're gonna go with the younger guy if he's closer to Jordan Lewis. But if Jordan Lewis get cut, I can see him playing with the coach from Detroit. Gonna pick him up, guaranteed. You know
coach?
What I'm saying?
Why would the coach from Detroit do it? What makes you say?
The conference has been locked.
Say again.
He like them gritty players. The coach from Detroit. He's sort of like Dan Quinn too, the head coach from Detroit. So
well, Dan Campbell's an offensive guy, but you mean just like the mentality?
Yeah, the mentality.
Yeah, Dan Campbell was a tight end, but I get you saying.
Yeah, but there's a few of our players gonna get picked up anyway. So they just gotta play. When you play, that's why you gotta play. You playing for the Cowboys, and you playing for the whole 32 teams. So if they see you doing good, they mean they're gonna pick you up. So, but it's up to us to pick the right guy on the team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you make the wrong cut, then it'd be like the big D tackle that we lost last year. Remember him?
Well, yeah, he got picked up on waivers, so he wasn't.
Yeah,
he couldn't be a free agent. I think Jay Lou would be able to pick wherever he wants to go.
Yeah, he can pick where he want to go if he get cut. But it's gonna be a good competition. But you gotta give what's 24? Israel.
Izzy. Yep.
Yeah, he can play corner too. So that room is deep.
Yeah, he's a wild card. I'm gonna pay attention to where they line him up in camp, because he's a safety that they specialize for those big nickel, right? For not the big nickel, for the big slots in the postseason. Yeah. And he's a perfect option for that because he's 6'4" and he can match up, and he's more physical than Nahshon Wright, which is wild to say because he looked soft his rookie year, but he came back and said, "No, sir, y'all will not call me soft anymore." But yeah, man, like Dan Quinn has so many chess pieces to be able to match up with game to game if he wants.
Yeah, because the two new corners he got, them guys 6'2" and they run 4.4s, so that competition gonna be woo.
One thing
one of them
that
guys gonna get moved to safety.
look, I understand measurables matter at corner, but they're overrated now to me. Dan Quinn has constantly had great measurable guys at cornerback, but we got at that position. We kind of got all right. Look, are you fast? Are you long? Can you run? Cool, but can you put it together? Because these guys have yet to do it. That's all.
Well, they got to do it this year.
Yeah,
because that competition gonna be whoo.
It's gonna be crazy.
So that defense is gonna be cold blooded, man. With Gilmore, I don't care what nobody say.
Yeah,
Gilmore and Diggs.
Matter of fact, get to the super chat.
This is gonna make Diggs even better. Because I like what he did when I saw the film. He checking his brother. You see that film in practice?
Yeah. Hey, Marv, let me get going, though, man. I got Jay Tuck on the horn I want to get to here in a second.
All right, fam.
Appreciate
Good
you, Marv.
show.
Thank you, sir.
Salute.
Thank you, sir. Salute. He talked about, Gilmore's effect real quick, Tuck. Let me get to the super chat.
Super chat.
Tacoma John dropped one that said bigger impact Cooks on offense or Gilly on defense. I honestly think that is a fun conversation that you can argue either way. Now, our offense might not be as prolific from a man-to-man standpoint as our defense. But I think because of how prolific the talent is defensively, adding a guy like Gilmore could raise that defense even more. So it's a good question, man. That's why, man, the additions of Gilmore and Cooks to me are just thank you. Thank you. That's all I've been asking for years is to make these type of moves, man. Just make these type of moves in the offseason to help you level the playing field. You figure deal me, Tuck? It's good, Jay Tuck.
Yo, what's going on, my guy? What's up, Cowboys Nation, man? Fire show, bro. Salute to my
Thank
bro,
you,
DMV, man. Coming and killed it, man. But I want to chime in real quick before we pivot over to the corners guy, like Earl Bostic, because, I cover the Kansas Jayhawks, and I agree, like, I wouldn't compare him to Terrence Hill, but once again, like you said, he has a lot of Terrence traits. So I feel like he's going to have to really cut his teeth because I feel like there's a lot of undrafted free agents when it comes to the offensive line, like T.J. Bass and some of these other guys that we got last year. Alex Lindstrom, the center, was another guy I was high on last year. But I feel like the Cowboys are going to like him. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they give him an extra little guarantee, like $200,000? I think they did. So
I know him. Was it Wheaton? A couple of them got some money. Lipke.
Yeah.
A couple of them got some big dollars.
Hunter, they got a little extra in the bag, so that might be incentive for the Cowboys to kind of keep him. But he's a high IQ kid, very high quality, like you said, converted tight end, just a good kid. So I definitely like Big Earl. But man, this cornerback position, man, getting Stephon Gilmore, like you guys were saying, like this kind of flew under the radar because I know we were kind of going through the DeAndre Hopkins situation, but I feel like this is the Amari Cooper move for our defense. Like,
I saw you
you're
say
going to
that
get a guy. Yeah, he's very high IQ, man. And if you go back to watching the film when he covered versus Amari Cooper, he picks up on trends just like DMV said. Like, he noticed the trends of what the Dallas Cowboys and Kellen Moore like to call, so he knew he could make a jump on it. So, like you said earlier, now you can't just avoid Diggs. You got to really think about who we're going to try, which is only going to make our defense better, and especially our pass rush. But talking about the depth of the corners, guy, I want to ask you this. When it comes to Kelvin Joseph, how much do you think that, one, him being a second-round pick, but also the kind of special teams tag is going to save him? Because that's my biggest concern, because you said, like, he was the cornerback 7 kind of in the season. Do you think special teams is going to save him? Because you actually got to factor in CJ as well as a roster spot more than likely at the cornerback position. So do you think that's going to save Kelvin Joseph this year? Because personally, I think it's time to move on.
I think the special teams play he made in San Fran might save him to start the season, or not the season, but start training camp and whatnot. But again, I kind of mentioned this during the show. I think people forget he was the most penalized special teams guy in the league.
Right.
He had 6 penalties. Like, I'm sorry. You cannot overlook 6 penalties on special teams. That is absurd. That is absurd.
Right.
And so whatever good that he did on special teams throughout the regular season might have been outweighed by the bad or leveled things off by the bad. So I don't think he's such a prolific special teams player that you give him the CJ Goodwin tag. C.J. Goodwin is an elite special teamer. In fact, there may be only one or two other guys you'll be like, hey, I'll take him over there. Matthew Slater was a guy for years. If there was a Hall of Fame, he'd be in it. C.J. Goodwin been cutting his teeth in the league as a special teamer, so he's probably not going anywhere. So I don't think it'd be special teams, Tuck, that would save him. I think his cornerback ability would have to save him.
Yeah, but I just don't see it, man, at this point, because like you said, that he got benched in that game, and we saw how like J-Ron and some other players, they didn't say it directly, but they kind of said like, hey, you got to be mature about this, because there was the rumors that he was kind of throwing a fit on the sideline when he got pulled out. So it's like, how many opportunities are we going to give Kelvin Joseph to really emerge? And they did trade up for Eric Scott. Now, Eric Scott, he's a kid. He's actually here in my own backyard from Kansas City. Now, I'll be honest with you, Scott, when I broke down the film, I wasn't too excited. You know what I'm saying? Because I just like, where's it at?
He's a developmental guy. He's a developmental guy, I think.
Yeah, he's a developmental guy, right? So it's like, but since they traded up for him, I feel like he's going to get one of those spots, and so he's going to be limited. So who is going to be the guy that's going to be pushed out, whether it's KJ or Nashawn, right? Because I feel like they're going to try to get Scott in there when you have pretty much cornerback 5 or 6. So it's a good situation to be in. I feel like once you include our safety play with our corners, we're finally in a good position where our secondary, the one thing I would want to clean up is the linebacker room a little bit. But I feel like this Dallas Cowboys defense is going to be tops once again, especially with Dan Quinn added this offseason. So
let me ask you this, man. We were just sitting here talking about Gilly, and I was sitting here thinking about this whole time. I'm looking at Gilmore as and he'll be third. I don't know now. This whole time I'm looking at Gilmore as a 1-year rental, right? And I think that's fair because he's 32, will be 33 September 19th. Mm-hmm. But if Gilmore comes out here and he continues to play like a top 10 to 15 cornerback, doesn't deal with any injuries, would you be open to bringing him back on a team friendly? I don't know if it'd be another 1-year mercenary deal or a short. It probably would be a 1-year deal. Would you be open to bringing him back? Because Tuck, when I look at the room, and specifically the big four, yes, you have Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs, but Jordan Lewis won't be here. We have no idea what's behind them. Right. And I'm all about keeping as many good players as possible. But would you be open to bring back? I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but if Stephon Gilmore doesn't deal with injuries, plays like a top 10 to 15 cornerback, would you be open to bringing him back?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I absolutely will, because I feel like just from the IQ standpoint alone, he's going to add value to our cornerback room. Yeah. And like you said, right, Jordan Lewis will probably be gone. And then, you're going to be fixing to the conversations of the contract talks with Trayvon Diggs as well. So it's just like, you know what? Why not shore up that spot with a veteran guy and let some of these younger guys fully emerge, so that way the pressure really isn't on them. So, yeah, I'm all for bringing on Stephon Gilmore. Man, like I said, we're kind of, being a little bit early, but I think he's definitely going to turn out in this defense. And here's my concern: if something was to happen to him like this season, then our boundary corners gets a little shaky because you might have to move, Bland on the outside, or you have to get creative again. So he definitely stores up things when it comes to our secondary. So yeah, by all means, man, especially get a cheap deal, that's right up the Cowboys' alley.
Yeah, I just think that he's going to have a good season, man. I just do. I don't see some crazy drop off. What you would hope, right, is that he is the new Terrence Newman, a guy that can play well into his 30s at a high level because he's still athletically gifted, but the mental aspect just kind of keeps him going, man. So just thinking ahead.
Right. And it's a player you trust because, even though he went down, AB struggled last year. There were so many games where, AB was out there getting picked on. So I just don't see that happen where we look up and Stephon Gilmore is getting picked on throughout the course of a game. So it's definitely going to help our secondary. So I'm excited for this season, man. Defensively, offensively, I feel like we're in a good situation. There's a few different players I'll kind of sprinkle in as far as free agency. But I feel like from the Cowboys standpoint, we're good. So I'm excited, man.
I say if they want to pick on Stephon Gilmore, please. I beg of you.
Right.
Try it.
Right.
Give it a shot.
I'll take that.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? Because I felt like that's like we said. Like teams like, what? We're not going to put the ball in the air Trayvon Diggs' way. We're going to pick on Anthony Brown or whoever these other corners over here, like Trayvon Mullins and Xavier Rhodes, like the list goes on. They're not going to do that with Gilmore. So it's really going to force you to pick your poison. And sometimes you're not going to get that opportunity to think because we got that defensive front coming with the pressure, with Mozzie and Micah. So I feel like Dallas Cowboys defense, they're going to be, tops of the NFL once again. So I'm excited about it, especially they're going to strengthen that run defense as well.
Facts. Hey, good stuff, Tuck. We look, I was saying this earlier after I was done with DMV. I might not be able to do the Around the Nation like we used to, but I still would like to go around the nation and bring you guys on to talk about a specific topic or player or reunion or whatever. So keep that phone by, bro. I'll be hitting you up. We're going to have
we'll
discussion.
Talk about it, bro, because I think this is a good time to do it, man. So keep doing your great thing, bro. And we'll link up in the season. It's almost camp. So Cowboys Nation, let's get started.
Salute. That's Jay Tuck, man, of CFO Sports. Make sure y'all give him a follow on everywhere. I think he's CFO Sports on Twitter, on Instagram, and obviously on YouTube, where he's been putting together some good film stuff, man. We spoiled. We are so spoiled to the point now where before I would try to do everything because cut my teeth in this thing, and I'm like, hey man, I gotta get this out, I gotta get that out. Now it's like, no, I don't. When it comes to like film breakdown or this or that, my guy Tuck got it. My guy Koya got it. Foots might have. Vach, somebody will have it covered, and it allows me to kind of focus on. And I'm not saying if they didn't do it, I wouldn't do. It allows me to kind of focus on giving y'all the best product in the morning show as possible. And I think that's just so dope, man. That our community is that deep that you can find whatever you want, however you want it, in any way you want it, man. I missed one towboat.
Super chat.
And then we're done with the super chats. Can't wait to see Diggs on Diggs. Dallas versus the Bills this year is going to be a great show. Only thing I hate about that game, Towboat, is it's in Buffalo. It's going to be cold. I don't even remember the last time I remember playing in Buffalo obviously wasn't the last time. However, it was the 2007 game. Tony Romo 5 interceptions, but we still won all sides kick. And I remember it not only because it was a fantastic finish. They iced us, still came back. Nick Folk became a hero. But I sprained my ankle running around the hallways, snapping out after he first made the kick, only to come back in and be like, oh, they called timeout. Yeah. But I don't remember the last time we played them in Buffalo. Luis, he says, yes, man, love our DC fan podcasters. We deep, brother. We deep. All right, I think we good, man. I think we covered everything we covered. We got some good calls in today. Appreciate Tuck coming through. Appreciate DMV coming through to break down his video. And obviously all the rest of you guys that called into the show. We'll be back on tomorrow, hopefully, to discuss. I can't say what we saw or what they saw down at minicamp because there won't be media access until Thursday. So on Thursday, I'll ask in the scientific method segment, we'll talk to Pat Walker about what he is looking for down there at camp. And then tomorrow, maybe we'll get some interviews that happened today and we can kind of discuss what the veterans are now talking about. I think last year when this happened, we heard, the Zach Martins and Zeke talk about Tyler Smith and his size and his physicality and things like that. So I'll keep an eye out for that today. And then tomorrow we'll come back and we'll give you guys another fantastic show. Appreciate it, Double R. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. I am still trying to perfect this thing, man. I still am. But I cannot complain, living the dream because of y'all, man. And if y'all enjoy this morning show, hit the like button for me, please, on your way out. If you want to be a part of the Bomb Squad, you got to be a subscriber. Probably like, why can't I comment? That's why. I think it's a fantastic thing that they do here. But go ahead, sub up, and join the Bomb Squad, man. Oh, some news, though. It came down yesterday. For those looking for Vach's show, I'm not sure if he made it public or not, but I will because I don't want y'all to think. There will not be any shows this week, so I will not be on Vach's show. We're taking a little bit of a sabbatical this week. I knew this was going to happen throughout the offseason. I think we'll do one now, and then there will be another one during the dead period. Just because, we kind of got to, it's slow. Let's just be honest. It's real slow right now. We got families and things we got to make sure that we focus on as well. when you really think about it, our community is like the only ones doing daily Cowboys stuff. Not even the Cowboys are doing their shows daily because they understand, hey, it's the off season. But we still continue to grind out quality shows. That's one of the things that I am big on. I just don't want to come on here and just give y'all some random show. I really try to put together a quality show. So, you know, I'll just say thank you for coming on here. But yeah, we cranking out this work, big dog. We're cranking out this work. All right, let's hit this button and get up out of here. Jameson, dang, I'm ready. I'm gonna have to talk to my guy Pat about that. Thank you, Rolo. Appreciate you, man. Swain's a nut. And don't forget, since my Lakers lost, man, I got no choice but to call them mid. Shout out to the Bomb Squad. Shout out to the Mod Squad. I see y'all and I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Get well, Jameson. We all think about you, brother.
Bomb Squad!